coming right up on Geraldo, when your husband's ex-wife is ruining your life.
You don't know the situation in my house.
You don't live there.
For 3 years.
You've never been in my house. They're my children, and they're his children.
Nobody's going to take them
And
away
nobody's
from
going to take... Well, that's what I feel like you're trying to do.
Nobody's trying to...
Yes, you are.
I don't think it's working for the children.
I was hurt. He was hurt.
Right now, I'm very angry.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the program. Okay, here's the deal. You meet the man of your dreams, you get married, life is wonderful until you discover that you are trapped in a situation well beyond your control. You have to share your husband with another woman. The other woman is his ex-wife. Okay, meet Greg. Greg was married to Jane, the lovely lady in the white dress who sits alongside him, for 10 years. Jane is the mother of Greg's 2 children, the 2 beautiful boys that you see over there in the wings. That's Garrett, the 10-year-old, and Reed, the 4-year-old. And these kids could be in the movies. They're both beautiful, well-behaved, wonderful children. Now I want you to meet Jennifer. Jennifer, the lovely lady in the blue dress, is Greg's second wife. Jennifer tells us that her life is made miserable, and it's all Jane's fault. But ex-wife Jane says once you're in love, you are in love forever. Jane, how long have you and Greg been divorced?
I think it's 3 years now.
3 years. Okay. Now, don't you think it's time to let him go?
Yeah, I've done that.
Have you cut him loose?
Uh-huh.
But aren't you still a big part of his life and Jennifer's life?
Yes, because we have 2 sons.
Isn't it more than that, Jane? Aren't you jealous of the life that Greg and Jennifer share?
No.
Isn't that the life that you want? Husband, wife, children, house?
Yeah.
You get angry sometimes?
Yeah, I guess so.
Now, Jennifer, does her anger mess up your day-to-day existence?
Yes, it does.
Does she kind of tug at the kids' heartstrings? Does she still vie for Greg's love?
Yes, sir.
Well, you tell me. You tell us how you feel. You have to make us understand why you called our 1-900-SPEAK-UP line, why you want us to understand how his ex-wife is messing with your current reality.
I don't know if there's enough time for that. Basically, just in the day-to-day existence, I have to share custody with the children. Weekend.
What is, let me interrupt, I'm sorry, what is the custody arrangement with the kids?
A week on and a week off.
Oh, a week on and a week off. I mean, some of these judges should be taken to court, I think. Yeah. Anyway, all right, so it's a week on, a week off. How does that affect I've taken the kids and taken them out of earshot. I don't want them to hear this, by the way, so they're backstage. So how, Jennifer, does that affect your life?
Well, to be honest, it's hell. They are often belligerent, disobedient. It takes, I call it decompression. It takes a good 2 to 3 days to calm them down and to make them mind.
And then 4 days later, it's back on again.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we back up and tell us how you and Greg met? Now, you both sit there, both ladies sit there in beautiful dresses, but the fact is that you had kind of a rough existence. You were a bartender in a biker bar,
yes,
Jennifer?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir. I'm going to have to start saluting you. So, all right. Now, you heard that Greg was, what, unhappy in his marriage?
Yes, through friends and just by observation.
Tell us, what was there about Greg that caught your eye? Why him?
Well, for one thing, I thought he was gorgeous, and I did not know he was married at the time, but we had no romantic ties or inclination. It wasn't anything like that. I met him, I was working at a bar called The Wheel in Ojai, and I observed him.
Ojai in Southern California, just north of Malibu, there on the coast?
Yes, on Highway 33. And I just gradually saw this marriage decline, if you would.
Did you have anything to do with the decline and fall of Greg's marriage to Jane?
Absolutely not. I didn't even know about her leaving him until months later, and that happened on Thanksgiving of 1989, and that was when Jane's then boyfriend walked into the bar. Greg was there to eat his Thanksgiving dinner alone, and he was sitting there waiting for his meal, and here came in strutting the gentleman that Jane was dating and Jane with him. And I collectively watched, you know, a face just hit the floor. I mean, I never saw such devastation in a man's eyes. And my heart went out to him. I was standing at the register, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, you know, I mean, there's a jillion bars, and of all the places to pick, why this one? You know.
Sounds like a line from Casablanca, doesn't it? A million gin joints and... Greg, did you and Jane fall out of love?
Yes, I think we had a good marriage in the beginning, you know. We had a lot of good times, and when the first, well, we had like 6 years before Garrett came. Or no, well, yeah, about 6 years before Garrett came. And things were pretty good up until then, you know. I mean, we were happily married, and I was working, and she was housekeeping.
But you were living kind of a wild life, as I understand it. First of all, I mean, I have a Harley-Davidson myself. I don't want to put you down for riding the same bike I do. But the fact is, you lived a rough life, and drugs were a big part of your life. Heavy boozing, also a big part of your life. Am I right?
That was my drug of choice, was alcohol.
Alcohol, but also there were other things involved.
We dabbled in everything.
Everything that you can imagine. Now,
pretty much.
What kind of housekeeper, homemaker was Jane?
Well, pretty good. You know, when the first child came, she was a very good mother with Garrett. You know, she was very cautious with who had colds, who was allowed in the house, and all that. And we were participating in our drug and alcohol at that time.
So you'd be stoned in the house, but the fact that you were intoxicated didn't make Jane a bad mom.
No, it was pretty much a reality that we were living, you know. I mean, that's the way we were.
So along comes Reed. What happens to the house and the marriage then?
Well, I think Jane had a hard time dealing with Reed. It was, I don't want to say an unwanted child, but it was a lot more difficult when the second baby came. I think she was participating in more partying and heavier partying, and
I want you to be specific. Partying, what does partying mean? It makes people think they're dancing to Guy Lombardo.
Yeah. Her drug of choice was crank, speed.
Methamphetamine?
Yeah. So that meant a lot of late nights, and...
You never want to sleep. You're constantly going. You're hyper all the time.
Well...
And you crash down when high wears off.
What was happening was I'd gotten to the point where I was drinking heavily at that time also. So as long as I had a bottle of JD there, she could go out and
Jack
do her
Daniels,
thing.
so you didn't care?
Well, I didn't know any better at the time.
And who was taking care of the babies?
Well, during the day, she was home. I was working. I own a business next door to our home. And I was working all day. And when I'd come home, many days, Jane would still be in bed from the evening before because she would come in at 4, 5, 6 in the morning. So
who was she out with?
The words were her girlfriends. You know, they had a little...
You didn't buy that for a second.
Well, yes, I did, because I knew her girlfriends, and they were all involved in the same kind of partying. So I'd come home, kids would already be in bed, and I'd drink my bottle and go to sleep, and I'd be there through the night, and I'd get up and go to work. By then, she'd be home. And
what'd your house look like?
At that time, it was pretty bad.
Jennifer, describe it. You saw it.
I saw total filth. Total filth.
Like
the
what?
rug was a wreck in the living room. There was clothing piled. I didn't even know they had a dining room table because the clothing, clean and dirty, was piled on it. I thought there was a cave in the dining room because it was dark the first time I ever saw the inside of the house. I kept looking through the room, and there was a red light at the back, and I kept thinking, gee, I wonder what's behind that cave. You know, why would anybody have a cave in their home?
It was a very dark house. All the curtains were drawn, and it always seemed...
And that was dirty laundry?
Yes, sir.
Was she being... Don't call me sir, I'm going to punish you. And that, do you think that she was being an abusive or neglectful mom?
Yes, I would say neglectful. The children, Garrett in specific, was, you know, getting himself up and off to school.
He dressed himself?
Yes, he would dress himself, and this now is what's been told to me. I was not there, you must remember. But he would dress and get himself up in the morning, dress and go to school, and sometimes would have to wake Jane up to get lunch money, and she would badger him so badly that he would be in tears, and Greg would intercept him coming out the door and say, "What's wrong, son?" And he'd say, "Mommy just, you know, chewed me out," in so many words or less, for waking her up. And so then Greg would then give him his lunch money.
Well, who changed the baby's diapers? How did Reed learn how to walk, for instance?
In a crib.
In his crib?
Pretty much.
You mean locked up in his crib is where he taught himself how to walk?
When I came home at lunchtime, mind you, my business was 10 feet away. I was not very far, and I'd come home every day at 11 for lunch. And towards the end there, Reed was always in his crib. I would then try to wake up Jane, get her out of bed, and try to say, you know, we got to start taking care of this baby. You know, but she would be tired because she just got into bed about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
What is it about this woman that still interferes with your life? You have her husband. You have the house that she lived in. You have the babies at least every other week. What is it about her that so bothers you?
Still bothers me. Like I said, the constant upheaval of the children's schedules.
You love those children, your stepchildren?
I love them as I would my own. I lost my 2 own children, and it was a very painful...
You lost?
Yes, sir. Yes.
You lost them?
Yes, they died.
How did they die?
My first husband.
What?
I had a 6-month-old baby at the time, and the baby wouldn't stop crying. He was teething one night, and I was doing he had a very short fuse, and I was doing my best to keep the baby quiet because I knew that he would get upset with me. And I was rocking him, and my husband came. I was also 5 months pregnant with our next child, and he came flying into the room and started to grab Michael away from me, and I fought him, and I fought him with everything I had, and he kept slapping me down against the floor, and I'd get up and go after him again because I was afraid of what he'd do to the baby. And just in a moment's anger, he swung him around, and the baby struck the wall, and it broke his neck. And then I miscarried the baby I was carrying.
My husband's ex-wife won't leave us alone, the focus of this edition of Geraldo. My husband's ex-wife is killing me. The ex-wife in the upper left-hand side of your screen. The current wife, the lower right, Jane and Jennifer. Greg, the husband in the middle. Yeah.
I noticed you said that you're living in the house now. Where is she living with the kids?
Where do you live? Oh, good, Greg.
She's living she's living at a home just up the street from us, which is paid for by the county of Ventura, welfare. She's using the welfare roll, and the children, being she has them half the time, she's entitled to full welfare, food stamps, money, housing. And that's another thing I would like to address on this show was, I think, so you got to remember, when she left, she said, "Goodbye, dear, I'll be back in a minute." She never said goodbye to the children or me. We were expecting her home the next morning as usual, and she never showed. She was on her own for 8 months or so, living various places. Then it came down to, she found out that if she had the children half the time, this is my perception of it, that she would be entitled to have the housing, the welfare, the stamps.
Jane, did you fight for custody so you could qualify for welfare?
No, I fought for custody because I wanted my kids with me.
But what changed in your life? Why do you want your kids now when it was so obvious that you didn't want them when you had them?
Oh, I wanted them the day after I left. He wouldn't let me take them. And then my situation when I left, I mean, I was homeless, and I lived in my car for a few weeks, and I didn't have a job. I hadn't worked for 13 years, so it was really hard to get a job. And on top of that, I was depressed from, you know, all the stuff I had just gone through. So you know, instead of thinking of myself, I thought it would be better that children stay with their dad, who that was their home already, instead of living in a car with me.
Greg?
Within that 8 months that she was gone, I'd seen her a few times. She'd pop in and say, "Are the children around? I don't want to upset them, but can I borrow some money from you?" You know, and
Was she still using?
yes, yes, and I was still drinking.
Are you still?
No, with the help of my new wife, my beautiful wife here, she taught me that it's not the way to be. And we both together went to AA and cut the drugs out, and except for a drink on the airplane yesterday. And
That's just recently. You just
well, it's been 7 months now. I've been clean and sober.
Well, yes, I look at it to whereas while you was with Jane, while y'all were both getting high and getting, you know, drunk around the kids or whatever, that when you realized that you needed to stop that, then you went to someone else who wasn't doing the same thing that you was doing, which was Jennifer. And I think you should have tried it out and helped Jane also, because both of y'all was doing the same thing for the sake of the children.
All three of us were doing the same thing. Jennifer was drinking when I met her. And together we sought help, and, you know, and it worked. I mean, it's working. It's not easy, but we're doing it.
Excuse me, wasn't there anyone around to help you, to take you to AA or whatever before everything happened? When they saw at the beginning?
You have to
There
want to
must have
help
been
yourself.
somebody around, or somebody to help the children at least.
You have to want to help yourself before anybody else can help you. You have to bring yourself down. I mean, somebody can drag you there, but it doesn't mean you're going to keep going. You have to want that.
This is for Jennifer. Did she go for counseling for the incident that happened with her first husband and the children?
No, at that time, this was many years ago, and I was even held on charges.
You were held on charges as well?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Why? For neglect of the children?
No, they felt that I should have, and I felt that I should have left the house sooner.
Were you convicted?
No, sir. No.
All right.
This is for Greg. Are you employed?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I own a business that I worked at since I was 13. My father owned it. It's an equipment rental yard. I rent tractors, trailers, lawnmowers, and it's the business that's right next door to my home. And I have a successful business. I've been employed my whole life. Brought home a paycheck every Friday.
But I don't understand why your children are on welfare.
Because my ex-wife...
I don't know if you heard that. She doesn't understand why the kids are on welfare.
Because my ex-wife here, able-bodied as she is, can't find work or whatever, but she has the children, entitled her to welfare.
This is for Greg. I know all three of you have suffered, and it's evident that you all have crosses bearing, and I feel sorry for all of you. You all have suffered a lot in your own ways, but this question is directed at Greg insofar as it concerns your marriage to your first wife. And do you honestly feel that you could have worked a little harder, you could have loved her a little more, you could have, like, worked together? Could you have salvaged the love that you think you lost?
Well, I thought of that. I think what happened was we met and got married very young. Things were good at the beginning. We had the same things in common. And we grew older and we grew apart. And she had her set of friends. I had mine. And somewhere slowly but surely, we divided. And there was a lot of pressure, you know, a lot of conflict between us, down to how to raise the kids and, you know, what's for dinner and, you know, I mean...
Lost the appreciation for each other pretty much.
We pretty much fell out of love.
Greg, don't you think that being you have a business and make a living, that it's your duty to support Jane and the children? Why should she be on welfare? I mean, after all, they are your children, too.
Well, really, it's the kids that are on welfare. I gave up spousal support in our divorce. I gave up everything so we could have, and I asked Greg, I won't take anything. In fact, out of the divorce, all I had got, well, the main thing was that I got 50% joint and legal custody of the 2 boys and our vehicle. And that was it. I gave up spousal support and anything else because I didn't want to, I didn't want a long, drawn-out divorce thing, you know. I was hurt, he was hurt. I didn't want to drag the kids through it.
What do you think of Jennifer, Jane?
My kids love her, so I have to... from what I know of her, she seems to be okay. I don't know her very well. I've known her only for 3 years.
Do you think the kids are better off with her?
No, I think the kids are better off with me.
But don't you see how this joint custody is tearing them apart?
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I can't take them away from their father. They love their dad.
And I, in turn, don't want to take them away from Jane. You know, she's going to be... We've always contended that she's their mother, and it should stay that way.
And yet, Jennifer, doesn't that mean that until Reed's only 4 years old, so for the next almost 2 decades, Jane is going to be a part of your life?
Yes.
And that prospect, how do you feel about it?
It's hard to put into words because I feel as if someone else controls me. I'm controlled by the court systems, although I'm not allowed to ever voice my opinions or what I view or hear from the children when they speak to me. And they confide in me because I don't claim to be their mother, and I've never tried to be. I've been their friend. I was there for them when Jane was not. I potty trained Reed. I put him in preschool. I feel like Reed is my baby, even though I did not birth him. I feel a special, you know, priority towards him because, you know, he is so special to me. And as for Garrett, he and I went through a very rough time together. He had to help his dad. His dad was destroyed emotionally by Jane's abrupt leaving without notification to the child. And his betrayal for a 7-year-old child was just overwhelming for him. And so Garrett and I have become very close, you know, because we talk to one another, and he feels like he can trust me and speak to me, and there won't be retributions. And I've never struck him. I've never, you know, untowardly punished him. I've always tried to help him with the schoolwork when his grades were falling.
This woman has done so much for those 2 boys as far as education and, you know, teaching them right and wrong.
And so have I. I've raised them since they were babies.
But the beginning years with Reed, you weren't there.
Reed was 14 months old when I left the house.
He wasn't potty trained, you know, and...
No, he wasn't right then.
Let's take a break. My husband's ex-wife is driving me crazy. Our focus. We'll be right back. My husband's ex-wife is killing me. Our focus, yeah.
Hi, it sounds like the family's in recovery. And when the new wife came into the family, it was still like majorly dysfunctional. And it seems to me that it's becoming functional. And the problem that I see...
All these words, these psychobabble words, functional, I mean, you got people in pain there, definitely in pain. What's the question?
Well, I think the new wife wants the other wife out of the picture, but that's like a fantasy. You know, they have to incorporate each other and become the whole family.
Jennifer, what about that? I mean, you bought a package deal here. I mean...
Well, I realize that, and like I said before, I've never tried to take the children away from their mother. I've never said, now I'm your mom, you don't have, Jane is no longer your mother. I've
Jane's family, a lot of them hail from this side of the country, I think. New Jersey, is it? Okay, you're the brother right here. Why don't you stand up? You're the Jane's dad, sister? Okay, stand up. And your brother also. Okay. Do you recognize, I'll start with the sister. Your name? Patricia. Do you recognize that Jane was an unfit mother at the time?
Not at all. Not at all. Since she lives on the other side of the states, I've went out to visit her a few times when my son was young, and I saw that they lived as a very close family. I felt that she did a very good job with raising her children.
What about the piles of dirty laundry, the fact that she is admittedly an ex-drug user?
I always saw the dining room table. There was just normal clutter of a household. It looked lived-in. It didn't look like you didn't want to touch anything. They had children.
He wasn't born at that time, the youngest.
Yeah, but I went out there 4 years ago, and...
Describe what you saw.
I saw Greg messing around on Jane, and I saw a lot of things going wrong on your part, too, Greg. All right, and you weren't there. You went out the whole night. When I was out there, she was home with the kids. You weren't around. So you can't blame everything on Jane.
I'm not trying to.
All right, that's wrong. And you were just as much into drugs as she was.
That's correct.
He said that.
All right, but still, you know, she was there for the kids still. You know, you can't. All right.
It was after
But
Reedy
why
was
wasn't
born.
the clothes? How come the clothes weren't picked up off the floor? You could have helped too when you came home from work.
He was working.
So, you're the grandpa, right?
That's right. I've been married 33 years, and I've seen what was going on. I think Jane's a very sweet girl, and she's a hard worker. Matter of fact, when she was living in Jersey, she went out cutting grass. She was a landscaper. That's how hard she worked. She really worked hard, as far as I can remember.
That was a long
Very
time
good
ago.
girl.
Thank you, Dad.
Okay, all right, Dad.
Love you.
Greg said that they both were in treatment, but he said he took a drink yesterday, right? And Jane's supposed to be in treatment also?
No, we're not in treatment. I'm not. I just stopped myself.
So you want your children back?
Excuse me?
And you want your children back and you're not in treatment?
No, I have custody of 50% custody of my kids. I haven't done drugs for almost over a year.
What'd you do a year ago, Jane? What was that? Was that methamphetamine?
Yes.
Crank?
Yes.
You know it's one of the drugs that really makes people crazy, though. You understand that?
Drugs or alcohol mess up your life, period. I mean, you know, they don't help anything.
Were you shooting it?
No.
You snorted it?
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if the children were having any emotional problems or seeing any kind of therapist.
Excuse me?
Are the kids in any kind of treatment, Jennifer?
No.
We're starting to see some of the fallout from this week on, week off, especially with the older boy, Garrett. We have taken him to a psychiatrist. He has these spells, I guess is the best way to explain it, where he has these visions that frighten him. And moments later, he'll be vomiting. It'll pass, and I'll ask him, what's happening here? Do you feel sick? And he says, I flash these pictures, but I don't know what they are. I see something, I don't know what it is. And we've been getting concerned about that, so,
So you took him to a psychiatrist?
Yeah.
Jane, did you know that?
I didn't know they took him to a psychiatrist, but Garrett and I were sitting on the couch at my house, and I was just talking to him, just, you know, sitting here just like we're all talking, and he did that. And
had one of those
visions. And I don't know, I believe in what's the word I'm looking for? Like visions or extra, or
psychic ability, that kind of second sight?
Yes, and I heard that people, or kids that are between the ages of 10 and 15 are really susceptible to that. And I used to have a...
So are you saying that you think it's a good thing that he's having these visions?
No. I mean, it seems like he's having it more.
Do you agree with the
past
decision?
3 months, I would say.
Yeah.
Do you agree with the decision to put him in care then with a psychiatrist?
Yeah, because I don't know if I would put him in a psychiatrist, but you know, he said that that happened the other day again, and I was concerned, and I was going to have him, you know, take him somewhere and have.
Do you still love Greg?
Not the same way I did when, you know, we were married.
Would you go back to him now?
No.
Be right back. Dr. Louis Jonda is a professor at Old Dominion University in Virginia. He is the author, a psychologist, the author of this book, The Second Time Around, Why Some Second Marriages Fail While Others Succeed. Dr. Jonda, anything you heard so far sound familiar?
Well, it certainly is as difficult and as complicated as any couple that we talk to, but I think the issue of the ex-wife and the new wife having problems is very, very common. In our survey, 60% of the couples said that they had problems revolving around the ex-wife.
What was that, 60?
60%.
Wow.
And most of those revolved around children and child custody kinds of issues. And we had mothers who told their children, you don't have to do anything that your stepmother says. So those kinds of issues make it very difficult and make it very difficult to adjust to the new marriage.
Is it possible to adjust when one has custody for a week and the other has custody for a week, even if they live in the same town?
I've heard of situations like that working out. I think the most critical thing is how the step-parents and the biological parents handle it. I think if they all work together and have the same goals in mind, and they all care about the same issues and have the same values, it can work out. I'm not sure that it's the best way to try to do it, but I think it's possible for that to work out.
In this case, though, Jennifer, you don't think it'll... I mean, will you tell me? How do you feel about this working out, the possibilities of it?
Right now, I'm very angry. I think it's very cozy that Jane could bring 5 members on her family into this show and have them gang up on Greg and say, well, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I've also heard Greg repeat to me that his, Jane's sisters have repeatedly said that Jane was the laziest person in the family, and that when it was her turn to do dishes or whatnot, that she was reticent to do so. And this has been carried on from time one. I wish my father were alive to sit in the audience and give me all the atta-girl points.
You guys just sat here and dug my grave down here, and I haven't said nothing.
I think, you know, I mean, you know, these people don't know the situation. You, sir.
Neither do you.
And you, ma'am.
Neither do you.
We're not.
Neither do you. You don't know the situation in my house.
I have been
You don't live there.
For 3 years.
You've never been in my house. You've never come into my house. I have
been in your house.
Last month was the first time that you have come into my house. Remember when you came back, we all came back from vacation, and you sat there to pick the kids up, and I said, well, come on in. That's the first time, and I've lived there for almost 3 years. Because he was there to pick the kids up.
And because you also had live-in boyfriends prior to that.
No, I don't. I don't have anyone living with me except for me and my kids.
Now you don't. The others are in jail.
I don't have anyone.
Prison.
Jenny, I've lived in my house for 3 years, and I've never opened a door and seen you sitting behind a doorway watching what I'm doing in my house. You've never been in there.
I've seen you come over to Greg's place of work, though, and borrow money from him so that you could go up and visit your boyfriend up in Northern California in prison.
That's untrue.
Yes, ma'am, that is the truth.
Untrue.
Yeah?
That is untrue, and you know it.
Check it out.
And you know it.
Geraldo?
Yeah, Greg, go ahead.
Bottom line here seems to me that I'm not trying to take the children away from her. You know, I'm not,
no, but you're trying to make me look like I haven't said, excuse my language.
Let me finish here.
Just get it for yourself.
Bottom line here is we've had almost 3 years with this experiment from the county, this week on, week off. I don't think it's working for the children.
No, it's not working for you.
The benefit to the children isn't there. I mean, I don't see any good coming out of that situation. I see it would be better if they could live in the home they were born in. I live right next door. I work right next door. I'm constantly there.
No, next door, yes.
Well, sorry, I'm making a living. And we do have means to take care of these children without being on welfare and a good, steady home, you know?
Well, I don't own my own business.
I've always contended that she can have a
I think this question mostly is directed at Jennifer. And again, I empathize with all of you and your situation. But I hear you describe your love for these 2 boys and this love for your husband. And I hear your husband saying you're a wonderful, beautiful wife. And I dream of that someday. And I would think that if I had 2 boys I loved as my own and a wonderful husband, I would be satisfied with that. And I think I'd try and have the strength to understand the pain that Jane's going through, but also be thankful for what I have. And maybe then the pain of the boys and everything else might be subsided a little bit.
I mean, they're my babies. They're my children. They're my children, and they're his children.
And nobody's going to take them
And
away
nobody's
from
going to take... Well, that's what I feel like you're trying to do.
Nobody's trying to...
Yes, you are. I feel like
No,
that.
we
I
have
think
not.
the stability of a home would be better to raise the children
Well,
in.
who says that my home is not stable?
Well, it's
You
the
don't
week
know
on,
that.
week
You
off,
don't live with me.
week on.
You have
Let me
no
take a break.
idea what I do. And you don't even make it your business to know what I do. Period.
My husband's ex-wife is killing me, our focus. Yes, thanks.
Jennifer, I know that you're hurting with your loss of your own children. Are you trying to take the place of your own children with Jane's children?
No, ma'am. At the time that I met Greg, I did not even know he was married. I did not know he had children. And when I ended up in a relationship with him, which was long after Jane had walked out on him, that's when I found out he had children, and there was no mother in the home. She had no interest in the children. She would go to his place of business to speak to him and say, "Are the kids here? Because I don't want them to see me."
Are you able to have children now, or?
No, ma'am, I am not.
You're not.
This is for Jennifer. What happened to your ex-husband?
He's a free man.
He's a free man? He was never charged with those murders?
He was charged, but then he pleaded insanity, and they ordered him to have counseling, and he never followed up. And as far as I know, he's walking the streets of San Diego, California today.
That's disgusting.
Hi, this is for Jennifer. I like to say to you that it's not right for you to get into her business. Who she has in her house or in her in her love life is her problem. And Jane, I want to commend you because you have your family with you. Even though you said that you are not getting any therapy or in a support group of any kind, you have support from your family, and that's good.
Right, but I like to say something. She has to be concerned somewhat because she has to deal with the kids also. So, I mean, if she didn't care about the kids, then she would have no concern. But she loves the children, so
Well,
yes, she's going to be
I'm
concerned.
glad you said that. With your permission, I have to take a break now. With your permission, I want to bring the kids out and ask them some questions, but not anything tough, and I don't want to let them know what's going on. Is that all right? All right. We'll talk to the kids in a couple of minutes. Speak Up America, we want to hear your comments and show ideas. Give us a call at 1-900-SPEAK-UP. Let us know what you're thinking. We'll record your message to play in a future broadcast. We may even call you to be a guest on a show. So call 1-900-SPEAK-UP. Don't forget, the call costs $1. We'll be right back. I'm going to start with Reed. You're how old again? Hold up your fingers. Let's see. How old are you? 4 years old. That's a boy. Now, do you have pets, Reed? What are their names? Come on, tell me. Don't be shy. All right, well, you think about it. You think about what their names are. Now, you have a kitten, right? You have a cat? And the cat, and then you have one dog or two dogs? One dog. Now, you used to have snakes, right? Who had the snakes?
My dad.
Your dad he had big snakes? Boa constrictors, or?
No, we had one snake.
Oh, one snake. Oh, that's it. Did you play with the snake? Okay, I wouldn't play with it either. All right, let me ask Garrett here. Now, have you been feeling okay lately, or have you been like, going through any changes? What?
Not really.
So you feel cool about everything?
Sorta. I sort of feel shuffled around because one week I'm with my dad and the next week I'm with my mom.
So I would never, ever ask a child who he would prefer to live with, but what would you like to happen? You know, would you rather live just with one or the other?
Yeah.
Why would that be better?
Well, because you wouldn't, you'd have like the same set of rules and everything, because at one house I have one set of rules, and at the other I have a whole different set.
Now, you love your mommy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jennifer, you love Jennifer too?
Yeah.
So they're both nice, they're just different.
Mm-hmm.
But you think that if you only lived in one house, that would make your life more organized, let's say.
Yeah.
So that's something that you're like. Reed, who are you waving to your fans there? Is that?
Television.
You're on television. How about that? Wow. It's like, let's look. Here comes the green slime. Watch out. Watch out. All right, you guys, thanks a lot. Give him a round of applause or send him back there. All right, Mike, you take the boys. Dr. Jama, isn't it inherently unstable? I mean, isn't this, let's say that you have two women in the best of circumstances with this arrangement. That kid, he's 10 now. What happens when he's 12? What happens when he has a girlfriend at 14 or 15 or 16? What happens when he gets his driver's, you know, isn't it just going to get more complicated? Isn't this just a time bomb waiting to explode?
Well, I think it can. You know, one thing that I think does happen in some cases, though, there are mothers and stepmothers that kind of cooperate and work together, and they call each other before making a decision to make sure that it's consistent with both households. So it's very, very difficult to work it out in two households, but it sometimes works.
Doesn't it call for one or the other to make that sacrifice and still be, like, obviously I'm divorced and I have a youngster, 13 years old. We never had the problem. We sacrificed, my wife and I sacrificed, but our son, as a result, is unscarred by this. I can't see how these children can escape unscathed.
It's a cliche. Everybody's heard it 1,000 times, but the kids' interests are really the most important things. And if you use the kids as a way of fighting out battles and expressing anger, it's the kids who pay the price, and they pay it for a long time.
Be right back.
Accommodations for guests of the Geraldo Show were provided by the new luxury Ramada Renaissance Times Square Hotel at 48th Street and 7th Avenue, New York City. Promotional fees have been provided by...
Television is all kinds of basic sweats and T-shirts. Tultex, a new way of looking at clothes.
2,000 flushes chlorine clear tablet. Helps bleach away stains in your toilet up to 4 months. 2,000 flushes chlorine clear tablet.
Jane, that is some tattoo you have there on there. That was from your wilder days, I'm sure. See that? See the rose there? You know, what do you wish? I only have like 15 seconds. I want you and Jennifer to. What's your wish, Jane?
I wish to, hopefully that we can compromise somewhere along the line and do the best for the kids.
Yeah. And Jennifer?
I've always tried to get along, and I sincerely do want to get along with Jane.
Shake hands. Everybody shake hands. Come on. Come on. Make it work out for the children's sake. For the children's sake. Thanks for coming on my show. Thank you, folks, for being here. Thank you, folks at home, for watching. See you next time. Maybe they'll work it out for the kids' sake. Hope so. Stay in touch. Stay in touch with us.